Your presence here is not an accident. Something brought you to this moment, and that something is not random. You did not stumble upon these words by chance. There is a pull inside you, quiet but constant, something that has been moving beneath the surface for a long time now. It does not leave. It does not calm down no matter how many distractions you throw at it. You have felt it in the early morning before the rest of the world wakes up. You have felt it deep in the night when everything goes silent and your thoughts become impossible to ignore. You have carried this feeling for days, maybe weeks, maybe longer than you want to admit. And you have carried it mostly alone, in silence, because part of you was afraid of what others would say. You feared being told that you were imagining things, that you were being dramatic, that what you felt was not real. So you kept it inside, you held it down, and still, it returned every single time. That voice inside you never stopped speaking. It whispered when you tried to sleep. It spoke when you tried to stay busy. It followed you into moments you hoped would drown it out. And here is what you need to understand right now. What you are feeling is not something you created out of nothing. It is not wishful thinking. It is not confusion dressed up as meaning. Something real is rising inside you. Something your mind has not yet found the right words to explain. Stay with this, because what comes next will begin to answer the questions you have been carrying quietly for far too long. Think about this carefully. What if the feeling that keeps returning to you is not a burden at all? What if it is not a sign that something is wrong with you? What if it is actually your inner self pointing you towards something true? Something your heart already understands long before your mind catches up. The feeling keeps coming back not because you are weak or lost, but because it carries information your soul needs you to receive. It is not longing inventing itself. It is recognition, something ancient and certain inside you that already knows what your conscious mind is slowly beginning to accept. And today something wants to offer you a gentle confirmation of exactly that. You have tried to silence this feeling out of fear, out of caution, out of wounds left behind by past experiences. You told yourself the intensity was too much, that something this powerful could not possibly be real, that you were reading too deeply into something ordinary. But the feeling did not shrink. It did not obey your logic. It refused to disappear no matter how firmly you tried to push it away. And there is a very important reason for that. What is rooted in truth does not vanish when you look away from it. It simply waits. It waits until you are ready to stop running and start listening. That moment is now. And what you are about to understand will change the way you see everything that has been happening inside you. There is a reason your whole body responds when you think of this person. There is a reason the connection feels unlike anything you have experienced before. There is a reason even the silence between you does not feel empty. It feels full, heavy with something unspoken, alive with energy that has no clean logical explanation. Your instincts, the part of you that rarely gets things wrong, have refused to let this go. Your mind has tried every argument against it. It has listed reasons, built cases, offered exits, and still the feeling stood unmoved. That is not obsession. That is not confusion. That is your soul telling you that something here is real, and that you must not dismiss it the way you have dismissed yourself before. This is not a chance meeting you are processing. What you experienced was recognition at the level of the soul. It is a deep resonance that goes far beyond physical attraction or surface-level connection. It touches something underneath, something that exists in the part of you that has lived before language, before logic, before the version of yourself shaped by fear and disappointment. You have tried to interrupt it. You have tried to close the door on it. You have tried to walk away from it in your own mind. But every attempt has only made the feeling grow stronger, because what rises from the soul cannot be silenced by the rational mind, no matter how hard the mind tries. There is a force at work here that is greater than willpower or analytical thought, and that force is what drew you to these words today. Now, the most important question you keep returning to: how do you know the difference between genuine soul connection and simple emotional need? How do you tell apart truth and attachment? This is what your mind will not stop asking. And the answer matters because the mind shaped by past pain will always try to label deep feelings as dangerous. It will call your intuition irrational. It will dress fear up as wisdom and try to convince you that protecting yourself means shutting this feeling down completely. But a soul connection carries signs that ordinary longing simply cannot produce. Signs that do not come from emptiness but from the most honest part of your being. Pay close attention to what follows because you are going to recognize yourself in every single word. The first sign is an unusual peace. When you are truly connected to another person through something real, something that runs deeper than circumstance, you experience a stillness even in their absence. Not panic, not the frantic, restless energy of someone terrified of losing. A quiet certainty, a calm that sits beneath all the noise and doubt. A deep part of you that knows without needing constant proof. You do not feel destroyed by the silence. You feel like something important is simply paused. That peace is your own inner knowing, reminding you that what is genuinely meant for you cannot be taken from you by distance or time. It does not feel like this with everyone. You already know that. And that difference is itself the sign. The second sign is awakening. This person has brought something to life inside you that was not fully awake before. Parts of yourself you did not know were there. Dimensions of your personality, your courage, your capacity for feeling, your ability to go deep. The connection functions like a mirror, revealing you to yourself. It pushes you toward becoming more than you were before you encountered this energy. Not because this person completes you, but because the resonance between you illuminates something that was already there, waiting for the right frequency to call it forward. That kind of awakening is not accidental. It does not happen with just anyone. It is a mark of something purposeful. The third sign is the persistence of the feeling itself. Simple attachment weakens when circumstances change. Fear of loneliness dissolves when new company arrives. But this kind of feeling stays. It stays when logic argues against it. It stays when time passes. It stays when you actively try to redirect your attention. That is not dependency. That is your soul refusing to close a chapter that has not yet reached its final page. What you feel is real. You did not manufacture it. This connection was permitted by something larger than either of you, and nothing that enters your life through destiny arrives simply to harm you. It arrives to transform you, and that transformation, the one happening inside you right now, is only beginning. But then why has distance appeared? Why has silence entered something that once felt so alive and full of direction? Why would something destined allow this kind of space, this pause that sometimes feels indistinguishable from ending? These are the questions that weigh the heaviest, and they deserve a real answer, not comfort, not vague reassurance, but truth. So here it is. Destiny makes very few errors. What has been genuinely placed in your heart cannot be erased. Not by silence, not by time, not by fear, not by distance. What is truly meant to unfold always finds its way back. Even when the road appears completely closed, some connections cannot be broken because they were not built by circumstance alone. They were built at a level neither person chose consciously. There are bonds the ego tries to force into endings, and there are bonds the soul quietly refuses to release regardless of what the ego demands. Sometimes two people must walk separately for a while, because both need time to grow into the versions of themselves capable of carrying the depth of what is waiting for them. This person holds an important place in your story, not only because of what you feel, not only because of your hopes, but because of a plan unfolding beneath the visible surface of your everyday life. Something decided long ago that this connection would serve a purpose larger than romance. It would serve the opening of your heart, the maturing of your soul, the clearing of old patterns. And even now, while confusion clouds your vision, something beneath the surface is already moving. Energies are shifting. Healing is happening quietly. Every experience you are living through right now is shaping both of you. Sometimes the soul understands what the mind takes much longer to accept. That is why this connection keeps returning to your thoughts without effort. That is why small reminders of this person awaken emotions too deep to dismiss. You have questioned yourself many times. You have wondered if holding on makes you foolish. But something within you continues whispering that there is more to this story than what appears on the surface. And that whisper carries truth. Not every connection changes the direction of your life. Not every person awakens your soul. Many people enter and leave, teaching temporary lessons before fading quietly into memory. But some people arrive carrying energy that alters you permanently. They challenge you, awaken you, force you to face the parts of yourself you have been avoiding. After meeting them, you cannot go back to who you were before. That is not ordinary attraction. That is something rare. There will be moments when doubt tries to convince you to abandon what your heart already understands. There will be moments when the silence seems to be telling you that the story is finished. But silence does not always mean absence. Sometimes silence is preparation. Sometimes distance is transformation. Sometimes two people must travel their own separate roads for a season before they can meet again with the clarity and the readiness the connection actually requires. The universe does not rush what carries genuine depth. Some connections are guided carefully through long seasons of waiting and growth, because what they are building is meant to last and to mean something permanent. And while the waiting is painful, it is shaping both people in ways they cannot yet see. You are being asked right now to trust yourself more deeply, to stop dismissing your intuition every time fear tries to speak louder than truth. Your soul recognizes things before your mind can explain them. That is not weakness. That is how the deepest part of you communicates. This connection entered your life to stretch you, to push you into healing old wounds, to dissolve patterns that were quietly limiting you, to reveal to you what love looks like when it is built on something real, rather than something familiar. And that process is not comfortable. Real awakening never is. But underneath the intensity is transformation. Underneath the uncertainty is growth. You would never have found another way. You were not meant to stay the same after this connection entered your life. It did not arrive to entertain you or to give you something easy. It arrived to awaken you to a deeper version of yourself and to guide you toward a love that is actually capable of lasting. Whether what lies ahead is reunion, healing, or an expansion of understanding you have not yet imagined, this bond carries meaning that extends far beyond the surface. And even now, as you search for answers, the deepest part of you already senses what your heart has been trying to tell you. Some connections are written into your path, long before you become aware of them. Some people carry something intended for you, something that cannot be faked, found elsewhere, or replaced. This is why the feeling remains. This is why your spirit keeps returning to it without being asked, because somewhere beyond fear, beyond the logic that tries to protect you, beyond the doubt that has made a home inside your chest, your soul already recognizes the truth. Nothing about this meeting was accidental. Nothing about the emotions it awakened inside you happened by chance. Even if your mind keeps trying to convince you otherwise, even if it tells you this was only a brief chapter that quietly closed, your soul knows differently. And deep within yourself, if you go past all the noise, you know it too. This is not over. It is not complete. It has not reached its final moment. What you are living through right now is not an ending. It is a pause, a preparation, a quiet rearrangement happening beneath the surface of what you can see. The confusion, the ache, the distance that sometimes feels unbearable are not signs of collapse. They are signs that something greater is being assembled. Both of you needed time to grow, to release old patterns, to heal what would have damaged this connection if it had continued unchanged before either of you was ready. Two incomplete versions of people cannot build something complete together. So the universe creates space. It creates room for each of you to become more whole individually. What looks from the outside like separation is, to a higher force, simply the clearing of what would have stood in the way, not destruction, construction, not an ending, a building. You have changed through this experience. And so has the other person. even if you cannot see it from where you stand. What appears to be an unbridgeable distance is, in the larger view, simply a space meant for growth. There is a perspective that already sees the road ahead, the destination, the moment where both of you stand more awakened, more certain, more capable of holding this connection without the old fears dragging it down. What you cannot yet see from where you are, something larger has already witnessed, and it speaks to you now, so that you do not make the mistake of walking away from something real, so that you do not confuse a pause for a permanent close, so that you do not release what your soul was guided toward for reasons that go far deeper than the surface story your mind keeps trying to tell. This connection is not a punishment. It never was. It entered your life not to destroy you, but to stretch you in ways nothing else could have, to teach you things about yourself that could only be learned through exactly this kind of intensity. Real love does not disappear when tested. True soul recognition does not fade under pressure. It expands, it deepens, it becomes something more solid than it was before the difficulty entered. The universe would not leave you in endless confusion without purpose. Confusion is not proof that you are on the wrong path. It is the tension between what you fear and what your soul has already accepted as true. It is the last defense of the part of you that is afraid to fully believe, and it is beginning to dissolve. To truly understand how this story is moving forward, you must understand the purpose of this phase you are in, this silence, this distance, this period of pulling back. This is not absence. This is alignment. The same force that is working on you is also working on them. The rearrangement happening in your inner world is mirroring something happening in theirs, even if their process looks completely different from yours. While you lean toward your intuition, they may be fighting theirs. While you step willingly into growth, they may be being pushed into it against their will. That does not make what you share less real. It makes it more complex. And complexity in a connection this deep is not a warning. It is evidence of how much is actually at stake. What you interpret as their distance is not peace on their side. It is struggle. What appears to be indifference is not forgetting. It is avoidance. They have grown tired of pretending this connection did not reach them the way it did. Tired of convincing themselves that what they felt was temporary or built on wrong timing or not worth the risk. Their protective side created stories to keep them safe. But the universe does not allow soul connections to remain buried beneath false stories forever. It removes every escape. It dissolves the distractions. It makes the silence louder than anything else. It turns the very things they hid behind into mirrors reflecting exactly what they have been running from. This is why even in their silence, their inner world has never been louder. They are not at peace. They are confronting exactly what you have been confronting, just differently, just quietly, just in the way that their particular fears allow. Their ego has always been their shield. The part of them that fears surrender, fears being hurt again, fears stepping into something they cannot predict or fully control. It is the part shaped by past wounds, by experiences that taught them that opening up leads to pain. Soul connections do not ask for control. They ask for honesty, and honesty terrifies the part of any person that has learned to protect itself through distance and silence. But that shield cannot hold forever. Not against something real. Not against a connection that was built at a level beneath conscious choice. Because what the soul has recognized, it cannot permanently unrecognize. No matter how far the ego tries to run, the soul always knows exactly where it came from, and exactly what it was drawn to. And that knowing is patient in a way that the mind simply is not. It waits, it holds, it stays true. And eventually, always, it brings what was separated back into alignment. That is the nature of what you are carrying. That is the nature of what refuses to leave you. And now finally, you have the words to understand why. The ego fights hard. It always does. It builds walls quickly and tears down bridges quietly. It convinces the person hiding behind it that the walls are wisdom, that the silence is strength, that moving away from something powerful is the same as moving forward in life. But wisdom and fear are not the same thing. Strength and avoidance are not the same thing. Moving away from truth is not the same as growth. And somewhere in the quiet moments, they cannot fill with distraction. They already know this. The walls they built were never really about you. They were built long before you arrived. You simply walked close enough to them that the person behind the walls could no longer pretend the walls were not there. That is uncomfortable. That is frightening. But it is also the beginning of something, because you cannot heal what you refuse to see, and this connection forced both of you to see. So do not mistake their silence for conclusion. Do not read their distance as a final answer. What they are doing right now is not closing a door. They are standing in front of it, frozen, unsure whether the courage required to open it is something they actually have. And the universe, which does not rush what it values, is giving them the time they need to find out. Your role in this season is not to pull them through that door by force. Your role is to grow so fully into yourself that when the door opens, you are standing on the other side as the most honest and grounded version of who you actually are. That is what this time is for, not waiting in the passive, shrinking sense of the word. Growing, expanding, becoming. Because here is what many people miss during seasons of separation and silence. They pour all their energy into the other person. They obsess over what that person is thinking, feeling, doing, deciding. They check for signs, read into everything, and exhaust themselves trying to decode a silence that cannot be decoded from the outside. And in doing all of that, they forget the one thing they actually have complete access to, themselves. You cannot control what is happening on the other side of this distance. You cannot speed up someone else's healing or force someone else's awakening. But you can do the one thing that actually shifts the energy between two people. You can become so whole within yourself that the connection has something strong to return to when the time is right. That wholeness is not a performance. It is not pretending you are fine when you are not. It is not forcing yourself to stop caring in order to seem less affected. It is the real quiet work of learning to meet yourself with the same depth and honesty that this connection called out of you. It is understanding that the love you felt was not something that came entirely from outside you. It came through you. It was awakened in you. And that means it belongs to you in a way that no distance, no silence, and no period of uncertainty can take away. The capacity for that feeling lives inside you, and the more you invest in understanding yourself, healing your own patterns, and building a life that feels genuinely true to who you are, the more that energy grows. And growing energy is felt, even across distance, even through silence, even when neither person is saying a word. This is how reunions happen, that the rational mind cannot explain, not through chasing, not through forcing, through becoming, through the slow, steady, sometimes painful work of turning inward and refusing to abandon yourself the way fear once told you to. The universe responds to that kind of commitment. It recognizes the courage it takes to keep your heart open after it has been uncertain for this long. And it does not let that courage go unrewarded, not because the universe is sentimental, but because energy that aligns always finds its way toward more of itself. What you are building inside yourself right now is the very thing that creates the conditions for what you are hoping for. So keep going, not frantically, not desperately, but steadily, with the kind of quiet certainty that comes from a person who has finally stopped arguing with their own soul. The feeling you have carried was never the problem. The doubt you layered over it was the only thing ever standing in your way. And now that you understand what this feeling is and where it comes from, the doubt no longer has the same power it once had over you. You are not imagining things. You are not lost. You are not foolish for feeling what you feel. You are simply someone whose soul recognized something real and whose mind is finally catching up. That is not weakness. That is one of the rarest and most valuable things a person can experience in this lifetime. Do not shrink from it. Do not apologize for it. Let it guide you, because it has been trying to do exactly that all along.